get started. Welcome to the afternoon session of the Employee Benefit Enrollment Meeting for 2014. We'll be covering the employee benefits for the next calendar year. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jim Antonio, the Human Resource Director. And hopefully everybody has an agenda of the presenters we have today. Let me go ahead and introduce them, and we'll talk a little bit more about the benefits. The Human Resource Office, besides myself, we have Tiana here today. Everybody's probably familiar with Tiana. She's our benefits person. Our broker, we have Tim Kelly from Winter Dents. With Coventry, who's going to be our new healthcare provider, we have Rita Williams today. From Missouri Cafeteria Plan, for the health savings account with Central Bank, we have Laurel with us. And then for the Missouri Cafeteria Plan, Jan will present later on. And then also, we have with Missouri Voluntary Life Insurance, we have Jay McDaniels. Jay was in back. I don't know if he's there right there. He is. And also with Forrest T. Jones, our 403B administrator, we have Jeff with us. So each of them will be given a presentation shortly. What I'd like to do to start off is give you a little bit of background on our health insurance. Last week, Connie Hallmark and myself went to both the Faculty Senate and Staff Council and gave presentations on that. So those of you that attended that have a little bit more knowledge of it. As we do every year, we went through a procurement process for our health insurance. And based on that procurement, we had 3 providers that submitted bids, and Coventry was the chosen provider for our health insurance. So we are changing health insurance providers for the upcoming year. So everybody will be required to complete a new enrollment form, which Tiana has those with us today. There are actual forms that are pre-populated as far as your information, so you just need to look through it and make sure that all the information is accurate. We also are switching vision and dental. We will be with Aetna for the new year with vision and dental. Aetna and Coventry are basically the same company. My understanding is Aetna basically is the parent company, and they have purchased Coventry. So eventually they might be one and the same, but for the time being, Coventry is our healthcare provider, and Aetna is our vision and dental. So the open enrollment periods from November 1st through November 15th were health, vision, and dental. And we will need for you to complete an actual enrollment form for that. So we're going to go over the plan designs of everything today so you have a better understanding and can ask questions. With that, I'm going to turn over to Jim to give you a couple opening comments.
Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody's wide awake after a lunch, right? Okay. I'm going to be brief. First thing I want to just make sure of is that everybody does have one of these red raffle tickets with the door prize drawing at the end. If you don't, if you raise your hand, we'll make sure we get one to you. I want to thank the Human Resources Department and the Benefits Committee who's put a lot of work into this project. And every year they look into the benefits, the pricing, to make sure that the plan that the university has is the most competitive, not only from a price standpoint, but also from a benefit standpoint and carrier standpoint. So we're happy to be working with the university and staff again this year. Anytime you make a change in carriers, there's always a little, could be some confusion or some maybe disruption or some change, things that are different. So you may notice, for example, that on your drug formulary, that what might be a tier 1 drug with United Healthcare maybe is a tier 2 drug with Coventry. It could be the other way around too. So after we go through the meeting today, we'll be around afterwards for however long is necessary. So if you have any specific questions or concerns about the plans and need more information, please come over and visit with us afterwards. We'll be happy to help you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rita, and she'll go over the medical and then the dental and the vision as well.
Good afternoon. I'm sure, like you said, you guys don't fall asleep on me. And don't take the balls out of there and throw them back.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Rita Williams, and I'm with Cafeteria Healthcare out of St. Louis. We are a local plan, but we also provide national coverage. We're going to go through the slides and basically everything that's listed on the agenda. Again, like I stated, we're a local plan, but we have national strength. We insure basically all the mail handlers around the United States, as well as the University of Missouri. That includes all of the University of Missouri facilities. We also insure Mercy, as well as SEIU, which is the union, the electrical union, as well as State Highway Patrol and the Missouri Department of Transportation. So we do pretty good. We will run over your summary of benefits. We're not going to go through each particular item in detail. However, in your packets, there's two plan designs, just like you have with United Healthcare. You have a high deductible plan, which is in your packets listed as a QAR 2500E. That is your base plan. That's what you know it as now. There's another plan in there, which is a traditional plan. It's a $2,500 deductible, 100% co-insurance plan. That's titled PPO R836. And we'll go over the nuances of the differences in it. The first one that we're going to talk about is the traditional plan, or what you guys consider the buy-up plan. There are several differences, and again, like I said, we're not going to go down to all of them, but everything that's highlighted in yellow on the screen are the differences. For instance, your out-of-pocket max in your prior traditional plan had $5,000, $10,000 out-of-pocket max. That included only the deductible. Coventry moving forward for 2014 elected to move forward with some of the mandates, which includes an out-of-pocket max, deductible, co-insurance, co-pays, and prescription drug co-pays. Okay? So that's $6,000, $12,000. Next, you will notice the chiropractic visits have changed as well. Previously, with your prior carrier, you had a 50% co-pay, 50% of the charge that the physician charged you guys, you had to pay. The mandate that we elected to go with is chiropractic visits would be no more than $20 per copay. Your durable medical equipment, which is also an enhancement. There was a limit up to $2,500, and that was for one service of a piece of durable medical equipment, or to purchase a piece of durable medical equipment. With Coventry, you have 0% co-insurance paid after the deductible, and it doesn't matter if you need 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of durable medical equipment. Prescription drugs, that's another thing that has also changed, okay? Your United Healthcare coverage was $10, $35, $60, and that's based on the tier that the drug fell in. You had a $100 deductible for an individual, and then a $300 for families. So you had to meet that deductible before you were able to make those co-pays. With Coventry, your drugs are either going to fall in tier 1, 2, or 3. There's no deductible involved in it. That being said, your co-pays are going to remain the same at $10, $35, and $60. The mail order pharmacy is another item that has changed. Instead of you paying for a 90-day supply at 2.5 times the copay, so let's say if you had a tier 1 drug, instead of it being $25 for a 90-day supply, it will now be $20. So ours is a little bit richer, meaning that you will only have to pay two times the copay. That being said, I want to talk about the mail order when we get a little bit further down.
On that previous screen, on the emergency room visit.
Yes. On the emergency room visits, on your printout, it actually is listed as 0 after deductible. That should be $250 per visit to the emergency room, just as it is now. And that's both in and out of network. So if you have your ink pens, please be sure to change that on your plan of vote. The emergency room copay, which is item number 9. That's on the buy-up plan, the PPO R836. qualified plan, or what you guys know as the base plan, it's an HSA, meaning that you can coordinate this with the health savings account. Laurel will be speaking with you guys about the health savings account, the registered and the debit card that's going to go through central bank. Your out-of-pocket max has changed, as well as your deductible. Your deductible is going from $3,000, $6,000 to $2,500, $5,000. Okay, so there's been a reduction in that. In addition to that reduction, if you look at max out-of-pocket, that has been reduced as well. And again, it includes your deductibles, your co-pays, your co-insurance, and your prescription drug co-pay. And this is on the base plan. Other than that, all the other items have remained the same. Now, speaking of the health savings account, since we just spoke of the base plan, which is the HSA, Laura will be speaking of that. However, there are some changes that have come down through the federal government and the different laws that have taken place. Everyone knows about healthcare reform and the things that have changed. Within the last 2 days, it is no longer a use it or lose it on the health savings account. Health savings account, it represents your money, the money that you had put away, and it is tax-free, I shouldn't say tax-free, but tax exempt as you put it away. Central Bank will basically be supplying you guys with the debit cards and also doing payroll deduction. The maximum allowable amount that you can put away for 2014 has increased. It is now $3,300 for an individual and $6,550 for a family. All coverage services include that go toward, or coverages that go towards your deductible. So that'll include your co-pay, your prescriptions, your emergency room, or your urgent care. So if you go to the physician, to the emergency room, and you have $2,500 in your HSA account, they just swipe your card and say, oh, okay, that $250 or whatever the co-pay is before you go into the emergency room at that particular time will be taken out of that HSA account. First dollar preventive care coverages, that's with all carriers, and that is one of the changes also with healthcare reform. Okay, so your preventive care services are going to be paid at 100%. Whether you're on the base plan or on the buy-up plan, there is no copay for your preventive services. Now, pharmacy. In your package, you have actually a listing of our drug formulary. And as Jim stated when he first got up here, the formulary may be different from Coventry Healthcare as opposed to United Healthcare. So something that may have been a tier 1 or tier 2 drug may be the reverse with Coventry, or vice versa, or it may remain the same. That being said, one of the items that I want to talk about is prior authorization. Prior authorization just basically means that you have to receive prior authorization from your physician before they write the script. Typically, these are your specialty medications or either drugs with some type of safety concern. Okay. Medco is our PBM, our pharmacy benefits manager, so they are the ones who will be servicing the account in reference to filling scripts. Okay. Certain over-the-counter drugs are also tier 1. These drugs include Claritin, Prilosec, and Zyrtec. And all of the major chains are in network, so that's Walgreens, CVS, Costco, all of them are in network. There's 2 items that I want to kind of highlight. That's the transition of care, which is included in your packet, as well as transition RX. Transition of care form. What Coventry does is we try to make sure that we don't miss anyone during transition from one carrier to the next carrier. That being said, if you have a member of your household who has a chronic condition, let's say COPD, congestive heart failure, or high blood pressure, or diabetes, please complete that transition of care form, because we want to make sure, number 1, that they don't have any disruption in their services, that their doctor, that their physician is in the network, as well as the fact that if there is a situation prior to the January 1 effective date, the nurses will basically reach out to them. Let's say, for instance, you're pregnant and you're due January the 15th. We want to make sure that you're transitioned and transitioned out of the hospital appropriately. Okay? The forms include an envelope. That envelope is a confidential envelope that you send back. It goes directly to our nurse case managers. In addition to that, there is a fax number on there. That's a confidential fax as well, because this is personal health information. Okay? Next in line, we want to talk about the Transition RX program. We offer this to all fully insured groups once they come on board with coverage. What that means is, for those members who are taking medication and it's December 31st and they're getting close to running out their high blood pressure medication, they say, I need prior authorization. For the most part, what we'll do is we'll do one transition field. That's a 30-day supply of that prescription. This occurs the first 90 days of coverage with coverage. So between January 1st and March 31st. This will give you the opportunity to go and have the conversation with your doctor and let them know that, number one, either I need a new prescription, or to let them know that you have changed carriers and you would like to review your pharmacy benefits. Member resources. We have lots of member resources outlined on our online portal. They include my online services as well as Locate a Provider and a Cafeteria mobile app. The first one, how to locate a provider. We get these questions all the time. Is my provider in network? That being said, if the provider is in network, what you'll do is go to www.chcmissouri.com. You're going to search either by name, zip code, specialty, or otherwise. Okay, you guys are in the PPO network, so when it asks you to select the network, you will select PPO.
What was that site again?
www.chcmissouri.com. Cat Henry Cat. And it is actually in your binders as well. Wellness. Coventry prides itself on the fact that we have an excellent wellness program. We are the only carrier that actually has a healthcare coordinator that comes out and does, for instance, wellness fairs, health risk assessments, health fairs, things of that nature. She has about 67 different lunch and learns. You can also come out here and administer different lunch and learns for particular reasons, you know, the proper way of lifting, things of that nature, high blood pressure, diabetes, what are the signs and symptoms of that. In addition to that, you can go online and do a health risk assessment yourself. This is a detailed health risk assessment that you can actually take to your physician for them to kind of review and say, hey, look, it looks like you are starting to show signs of pre-diabetes, things of that nature. There's 9 digital coaching programs, which include Nourish, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, insomnia, depression, as well as a smoking cessation program, and I'll talk about that. The biometric screening, like I stated, we can actually administer biometric screening when we do the health fair. And we will be coordinating with Jim and Diana on administering a health fair later on in the year. This is basically just information about the health risk assessment, and that's an online tool that you can use yourself. The online digital coaching, balance, breathe, relax, nourish, move, achieve, overcoming depression, and overcoming insomnia. We do coordinate with Weight Watchers, so you can do a tracking mechanism where we actually come out and do the walking program. The health coach can actually set up a walking program where we basically give you guys pedometers and you're counting your steps. You can do the Weight Watchers program. It actually has calculators on here to calculate the calories, et cetera, et cetera. And then last but certainly not least associated with that is the tobacco cessation program. When we implemented the University of Missouri, we were informed that, you know, they had moved to a non-smoking environment. That being said, you would see the nurses and stuff walk down to the end of the street and have a puff off their cigarette and things of that nature. So, but we offer a tobacco cessation program. That includes the nicotine replacement therapy. So that's the patches, the gum, and or the lozenges. Okay, this is available for every member of the household, whether or not they are on your coverage plan, 18 years of age and above. And that also includes a telephonic coach, okay? These will be mailed directly, meaning the lozenges, the patches, and the gum will be mailed directly to the employee or the member that is going through the cessation program. Okay? Now, we're going to move on into dental.
On the health insurance, we tried to post out information on the premium rates. The base plan is $407.55 a month, and the university will cover 100% of that for the employee. For the buy-up, the university will contribute $407.55 towards that premium, and I think that premium
106.86.
is how much out of pocket you would pay as an employee.
Say that again, Pam?
106.86 for the buyout plan for employee only.
And how much are the deductibles?
Pardon me? The deductibles? Well, 2,500 for each for the buyout.
The question was asked was how much is our deductible? It is $2,500 for both plans. $2,500 for the base and $2,500 for the buyout. Both plans are also 100% co-insurance after that. So instead of it being like 80-20, you're responsible for the 20%, you're responsible for 0 after you meet your deductible.
This morning, somebody commented they thought it looked like the base plan was a richer plan than the buyout plan. And what you really have to understand is the different components of each of those and doing a personal assessment of which one's most appropriate for you. The buyout plan has co-pays. Okay, when you go to a doctor, $30, specialist, $60. Okay? If you have the base plan and you go to a doctor, that's completely out of your pocket until you reach the $2,500. So both of them have different elements to them that you have to really consider your personal situation as to which one's better.
Right, and the only thing that's the same about both plans is that you can get your preventative services that are free. Your annual exams, mammograms, those type of services under both plans are absolutely free, no cost to you.
So for the buyout plan, you will co-pay, but how about the drugs when you go to the prescription stuff like that?
Your prescription drugs will be paid at the appropriate tier. So tier 1, 2, or 3.
You don't have a deductible on the buyout. Like we did this year, we had a $100 deductible, $300 for family. On the buyout plan starting 2014, just go into your co-pays for your tutors. You don't have a deductible for pharmacy. For basic, you just pay out of pocket.
Your prescriptions
Yes.
and everything apply to deductible.
Okay, but you, they ain't over there.
Right.
$106.86 a month.
That's the employee out of pocket. Maybe contributes $407.55. So both those combined the overall.
No. The question was pre-authorization or pre-certification. Every insurance carrier basically pre-certifies a procedure. Let's say, for instance, you're going into the hospital, you're going to have an appendectomy. More than likely, they've already called to get it pre-certified, meaning that the physician is on staff, et cetera, et cetera. In reference to the prescription drug, prior authorization means that it may be a drug where the physician has to make sure that it's safe and the efficacy of it is safe enough for them to prescribe it to you. No, what will happen is, her question was that for the mental health providers, they have to be pre-authorized. So if your physician refers you to a psychiatrist, psychologist, or to have mental health assistance, then they basically just do it as a referral. It is already typically pre-authorized. Yes. Correct. Correct. Any other questions on that? Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to the dental and vision. Your dental and vision, as Jim stated, moved and transitioned over to Aetna. The dental and vision has basically remained the same. You have a high and a low plan. On the dental, your low plan does not include orthodontia. On the high plan, it does. It's a maximum amount of $1,000 for orthodontia on the high plan. It is covered, everything is covered at 100% for preventive services, and you can have 2 cleanings, routine exams and cleanings per year, just as you previously had. It doesn't matter if it's the high plan or the low plan. One other item that's different on the high plan, actually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, it's not different. The questions came up in reference to, what if I was in process of having orthodontia done when I transferred from MetLife over to Aetna? Well, what we will do is we will deduct that amount from what they have already currently paid. So if they paid $1,000, then there's zero balance. If the orthodontist, you've already paid them $500 towards your treatment, we will pick up the remaining $500. One of the other questions that comes up pretty regularly is, can we transition you over directly at any given time of the year? And the answer to that is no. So you might want to read over the benefits for your dental plan, because if you do not enroll right now, because it is open enrollment and you can enroll into this plan at any given time between now and November 15th, then you would have, if you do not enroll in it now, then you would have a 12-month waiting period.
You said on the last slide you had something about crowns and things like that. That is a major probe, the upgrade, is it regular or?
That's a high plan, yeah.
Yes, that's the high plan. In both the plans, in and out of network benefits are paid at 90% of usual and customary services for the dentist. When we did a search in the Jefferson City area, there was only 3 or 4 dentists in this particular area. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the other ones, say in the Columbia area, are out of the network. But we just want to make sure you guys understand, it was the same with MetLife. I think we have one more dentist in the Jefferson City area than they do. The other thing is, whether it's in or out of network, they still will be paid the same amount. So your in and out of network benefits have remained the same. Okay, the Aetna Vision Program. The Aetna Vision Program basically has remained the same with your MetLife Vision Program. We do use the iMed network, and if you look in your packets, or I believe you guys picked them up from over there, we have a listing of the eye physicians that are in the greater Jefferson City area. If you want to locate other physicians, ophthalmologists, then there is also a flyer that you guys were handed that says how to look up a vision specialist. Okay? And again, we use the iMed network, so You guys are pretty familiar with that. In reference to contacts and eyeglasses, we get great discounts through some of our retail vendors, which include JCPenney's, Target, Pearl Vision, Lens Crafter, and Sears.
Vision program, no matter whether it's the buy-up or the normal plan.
Right, and another thing is the vision and the dental are voluntary programs. So the rate sheet is actually over on the table to let you know how much that is, because that will be paid directly by the member. Again, open enrollment starts Wednesday, today. However, it goes until November the 15th. Tiana, as well as Jim, would like you guys to complete all of your forms. Definitely complete your enrollment application and get it back to them. Again, the plans are going to be the traditional PPO R836, which is the buy-up, and the HSA plan, which is the QAR 2500E, which is considered the base. Your plan starts effective January the 1st. We would love to have all those forms back in by November the 15th, so we can assure that we get the ID cards out in time. Now, Laura is going to talk to you guys about the HSA or savings account as well from Central Bank. Any other questions? Yes.
The orthodontia on the buy-up for the dental, that's for the, like, employee as well, like adult?
Adult and children. Any other questions?
Laurel's making her way up. I wanted to reemphasize on enrollment. You don't have your enrollment form in your package, okay? Diana has each individual's enrollment forms with her. What we want you to do is at the time you make the decision, complete them. And so what we will basically be doing is we'll take that information and put it in a spreadsheet census and send it to Cafeteria around November 15th so they can go ahead and get that information in their system. So the enrollment forms will be with Diana today. They're over in our office. So when you feel like you have the information you need to make informed decisions, come over and complete the enrollment form.
Jim, is the dental on top of the 40755, is that right? Dental and vision? It's on top of it, I said,
I'm sorry.
40755, that's what the university contributes. The dental,
No.
vision, we pay on top of that, right?
Right. On health insurance, university will pay $407.55, which covers 100% of the base plan.
Right.
If you go with the buy-up, they will contribute $407.55, which means the employee will be paying $108 a month out of pocket.
Right. We pay for the dental and vision.
And vision and dental are voluntary products.
I'm sorry, this is still on the last presenter. The difference, you said that both plans have a $2,500 deductible, both the basic and the buy-up?
Yes.
And yet we just heard that office visits are exempt from that? That we pay $0 at the beginning, no matter which plan we have, or did I misunderstand?
No, that's for preventive services.
Okay.
Preventive services are paid at 100%.
With your buy-up plan, you have a $2,500 deductible for inpatient and outpatient services. You have co-pays for your doctor visits, for emergency or UR visits, okay? So that, in my mind, that's how I keep that clear. A buy-up, you still have a $2,500 deductible, but that's just for inpatient and outpatient services. You have co-pays, such as you go to a specialist under the buy-up, you're only going to pay $60 out of pocket. If you go with the base plan, where you have a $2,500 deductible that you have to pay all expenses until you reach that $2,500, you go to a specialist, you might be paying $200, $240 for a specialist visit. That's the difference between the two plans. The buy-up has co-pays, and then once you reach your $2,500 deductible for inpatient or outpatient, explain that clearly.
Yeah, you are.
There is a distinction between the plans. And depending on how frequently you go to the doctor, what type of drug usage you need, will depend on what plan you probably want to refer.
Question over here. Yeah. So,
Scratch out the form that's in your packet. We customized it. Right, the ones in your form, those don't use them.
Okay, thank you.
What we've done is we've developed an enrollment form and we've already populated it with your census information. So you need to check to make sure that information is accurate, but you don't have to complete it. So,
The question was asked, why, and other people have asked this, why on the buy-up plan is the out-of-pocket maximum higher than on the base plan? And the way you need to look at the buy-up plan is, if you have inpatient, like an inpatient surgery, you know that your deductible is $2,500, benefits are covered 100%. Okay? It's the same with this plan as it was with United Healthcare. However, with United Healthcare, even though you met your deductibles, you always had your copays ongoing, no matter how much you spend in copays. Prescriptions, office visits, ER. You could spend another $10,000 in copayments and those would always be there. Under this plan, even with your copayments, your out-of-pockets are capped off. That's where that out-of-pocket comes into play. So they take into consideration your deductible, but if you've met your deductible, it's possible that even your copays could go away at some point. Okay, does that make sense?
That's on both plans, right, Jeff? I know you don't have a copay on the basic, but.
Yeah, your out-of-pocket maximum includes copays on both plans.
Okay, I'm Laura Beasley, I'm with Central Bank. We can talk about the health savings account just a little bit. You're only eligible for the health savings account if you choose the basic plan. That's what partners with the health savings account. And the health savings account is used to accumulate funds on a tax-exempt basis to pay for all those out-of-pocket expenses that you incur. It includes vision and dental expenses as well as what you're paying to meet your deductible. Contributions, like I said, are tax deductible. Interest that the account earns is tax deferred. When it's used for eligible expenses, it's tax-free money. It's much like a cafeteria plan, so if you're familiar with the cafeteria plan, the eligible expense list is identical as the IRS list of eligible expenses. But unlike a cafeteria plan, there's no claims to file. You simply use your debit card at the pharmacy or do an online bill pay to your physician or your dentist. And by the way, when you're doing this with the health savings account in the basic plan, at a pharmacy, you can just swipe your debit card. Pharmacies are real time for the negotiated rate that you have with your healthcare provider. Now, most doctor's offices are not. So what you want to do is present your insurance card, let them process it with the insurance. Then once you get your explanation of benefits and your invoice from the physician, at that point, that's when you're going to want to pay. Because you're only going to owe the negotiated rate. You know, some specialists might say their rate's $300. You get the year explanation of benefits, it says, well, only $150 is allowed. So what you're going to owe is $150 then. The other thing about the health savings account compared to the cafeteria plan, there's no use it or lose it rule. So once you contribute this money to the account, it stays in there until you use it. You don't have to use it by the end of the year. It carries over to the next year and to the next year. It's your money, it's your account, it's there until you spend it. Another difference between the cafeteria plan, you can say that, well, over the next 12 months, I'm going to put in $1,000. In January, you have $1,000 expense. You can pull $1,000 out even though you haven't put it in there yet. Now, the health savings account's more like a checking account, so the money has to be in the account before you can use it. Now, if you have an expense early on in the year, you can reimburse yourself later on for that expense that was incurred earlier. For an expense to be eligible, if you're just starting on the base plan and the health savings account, you have to be covered by the high deductible plan and have the health savings account established, not necessarily funded. So you couldn't go back, if you were starting in 2014, you couldn't go back and pay expenses from 2013. Now, going forward, there's no limit. So if you incurred expenses in 2014 and didn't reimburse yourself till 2015, that's fine. You just want to save your receipts forever because there's no claims to file. You're responsible for keeping track of what you spent that money on. In case the IRS ever audits you, then you'll have your receipts to prove what you spent that money on. If you use payroll deduction, which Lincoln allows, you get the immediate tax benefit of your contributions, comes straight out the top of your payroll, right prior to federal, state, or local taxes. If you make a contribution directly into the account, say you mail us a deposit or you do an online account transfer, you'll get a tax time benefit, meaning when you prepare your taxes, you'll get to take it as a deduction at that time. So if you're covered by the base plan, you want to have a health savings account to at least run your expenses through. I always use these numbers because they're easy. You have a $100 expense, you're in a 20% tax bracket. Running it through the health savings account, you save that $20, so you really only have $80 out of pocket. The health savings account is made to be consumer driven. So like when you go to get your prescriptions, some pharmacies have generic drugs, $4. You want to go to that pharmacy to get that prescription rather than to one that's going to charge you a higher price for it. Rita mentioned the contribution limits. If you wanted to open a health savings account with us, you can do it one of several ways. You can go to our website, which is centralbank.net, open it online. You can come to one of our branches, speak to a customer service representative, and open it that way. Or I have over on the table some of these forms, which have an information sheet in it. You would just fill that out and include a copy of your driver's license. Mail it to us and we'll get your account set up for you. Now, at the end of the year, in January, you'll receive from us what's called a 5498 essay and a 1099 essay. These are tax reporting documents. You use those along with your W-2 when you prepare your 1040. Then just this slight overview of opening your account. These are individual accounts by the IRS rules. But we allow you to name an authorized signer. So if you want someone else to have a debit card in your family, you would want to name them as your authorized signer. And then we do require at least one primary beneficiary, so that in case something happens to you, this money then goes to your beneficiary. I just wanted to stress again, this is your account. If you change your employment, if you change your health care coverage next year, the money that you have in there is yours until you spend it. After age 65, when you're covered by Medicare, you can no longer contribute to the health savings account. You can still use it though for qualified expenses on a tax-free basis. That includes Medicare premiums or eligible expenses to come out of the account. If after age 65 you choose it to go on a vacation, you can do that, and you'll just owe ordinary income tax on it, like you would an additional retirement plan. Did I mention that we do allow investments with this account? Because say you keep it for years and you start accumulating funds in there, you want it to earn more interest. You do have investment options, mutual funds, stocks, kind certificates of deposit. Otherwise, what we pay on this account is our money market rate. So it is earning some interest, yes.
You said the money's ours if we change insurance companies or we terminate employment, can we take that money out? If we do, then we pay, I'm sure we pay taxes of some type on it, or?
If you use it before age 65 for non-eligible expenses, you're gonna pay taxes on it and a 20% IRS penalty. So if you change jobs, or you change insurance plans, you can still use that money for your co-pays, or your dental, or your vision out-of-pocket expenses.
What's the administration fee for us each year?
We do not have an administration fee for EMSs at this time. Yes,
We no longer participate in the MOCAP class, is that correct? The cafeteria class.
no, you all still do.
Oh, I can still do that.
Yes.
Now, with the
Okay,
with the
never mind.
house savings account though, we cannot participate in the full door MOCAP plan, the one that covers medical expenses and vision and dental. But they do offer what's called, what I call a limited purpose flexible spending account, which can be used for dental and vision. That one you can use in
If
connection.
I don't do your plan, I can still do my MOCAP
Yes.
plan. And you said if I'm 65, I can't even do your plan.
Well, if you're 65, you can no longer make, once you're enrolled in Medicare, that's, at 65, that's when you become eligible. So once you enroll in Medicare, you can no longer contribute to the house savings.
But I can do MOCAP. Yes. Thank you.
Something else that I forgot to mention was that your spouse and your dependent children, their out-of-pocket expenses are eligible to come out of the health savings account, even if they are covered by a different plan that is not a high deductible plan. So if they are on a totally different plan, that's a traditional one with co-payments, you can pay those expenses through your house savings account. Any other questions? Yes.
I know when most physicians really use stay on spot, we can put a credit card number.
Yes.
What if they don't, how do we pay them?
Okay, what you can do is you can either call the office and give them, like if you're paying with a credit card, give them the card number and expiration date, so you write a credit card. Or we have online banking, where you can go online, set your physician up as a payee, your pharmacy is a payee. You could also pay it that way. And there's no cost for that. You can view your bank statements online, you can view your activity online. We store 7 years worth of history on statements, and we have 18 months of activity for you to view at any time, if you would need to pull it up. Yes,
I have an HSA for former employment with a different bank.
okay,
Can that money be transferred into an HSA in the central bank? How does that work?
okay. You would just need to call me and let me know what that other institution's information is.
Okay.
I can fill out a request to transfer form, send it to you, they have you sign it, and then I'll have you send it back to me, and I'll send it to that other institution. They'll transfer it directly to us. It's a non-reportable transaction to the IRS. It's just a transfer between financial institutions.
Thanks.
And I don't know if I mentioned with this group that if you already have an existing health savings account with us, just because of changing health care providers, you do not need to open a new account. You can just continue to use the same one that you have.
Also, as a payroll deduction, if you want a payroll deduction out of your Lincoln paycheck, it has to be set up with the central bank account. You can have HSA accounts wherever you want, but if you want a payroll deduction, it has to be through central bank's account.
Yes.
If you already have a deduction set up, you wouldn't have to fill out a new one for the coming year
For
or?
the coming year, if they want a new payroll, do they have to pay a new payroll deduction?
No, you have money currently deducted going into your HSA, it will continue to do that.
So if everybody heard that, if you have a current payroll deduction going into your HSA and and you want it just to stay the same, you will not need to do anything different, it will just continue. Okay, I'll be here for questions afterwards if anybody thinks of any, and I have my contact information over here on the table, and if you'd like to call me at any time, I'd be happy to help you with your questions. Okay, now we have Jan to talk about the MOCAP.
Okay, I'm here to talk about pay raises. Anybody want a pay raise? Put me down for one too. Okay, so that's really what the cafeteria plan allows you to do, is put money aside, and you're gonna save money on it, because that money is coming out pre-tax. So automatically, every dollar that you put into the cafeteria plan, you're gonna save at least 25% of that, because you're not paying taxes on it. So the same thing happens with your insurance premiums. Okay, so there are basically several different categories in the cafeteria plan. The first one that we always talk about is the premium-only option. Okay, the premium-only option simply means that you're going to pay for any insurance premiums on a pre-tax basis. So if you decide that you don't want to go with the base plan, you want to go with the buy-up plan, they talked about that your amount that you would pay out of your pocket would be about $106, okay? So if you look at that and you say, well, if I put that through the cafeteria plan, I'm going to save at least $25 every single month just by having those premiums come out on a pre-tax basis. If you don't do anything else, you need to at least do that. Save 25% of your insurance premium. And it only costs you 16 cents a month in order to save that $25. If you have a dependent or anybody else on your plan, then you're going to be paying more in those premiums. That means you're going to simply save more. So be sure that you are in the premium-only option of the cafeteria plan. The other parts of the plan that I'm going to talk about take a little bit more thought than that and a little bit more planning. But the premiums is just really a no-brainer. You definitely want to do that. Put your premiums through pre-tax.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We get automatically pre-tax their deductions.
Right. You can opt out.
Yes, they
If
can.
you don't do anything, you will be in there for your
Right.
premiums, okay? And you're charged that 16 cents a month to have that happen. If you opt out, then that won't happen.
Right.
So just make sure when you go through your enrollment process, you think about that. The other parts of the program, there's basically a healthcare FSA. There's a limited scope healthcare FSA that Laurel alluded to when she was talking about taking the high deductible health plan. And then there's also a dependent care FSA. So let's talk about the full-blown healthcare FSA first. That's the one that you would sign up for if you are taking either one of the health insurance plans and not opening a health savings account, okay? If you had the high deductible health plan but you didn't open a health savings account, you can still have a healthcare FSA. If you choose the opt-up plan and you don't have a health savings account, you can have the full-blown healthcare FSA. That means you can put $2,500 into the cafeteria plan. You're going to save at least 25% of that again. And the way that you get that money back is that when you incur an expense, you file a claim with us. Okay? So rather than the health savings account where you're responsible for paying for that and making sure that everything is good with the IRS and making sure that you keep track of all of your receipts, we basically do that for you. But you do have to file a claim and tell us, I incurred this expense. Once you do that, then we turn around and we send that money back to you. Now, we can send it to you in two different ways. We can send it directly to your checking account or your savings account. You tell us where you want it sent to, or we can also send you a check. So if we send you a check, it costs you a little bit more each month just because we have to do the mailing of that check. You know, paper costs money. But it's $2.96 a month if you want it directly deposited into your account. It's $3.46 a month if we actually send you a paper check. How often do we file, or how often do we pay claims? We pay claims every day. Typically, when you submit a claim, you will typically see that money in your account the following business day. Occasionally, it may take 2 days, just depending on when we receive it. But we're really quick with turning those claims around and getting that money right back to you. There are a number of ways that you can file a claim. You can actually bring your claim to Central Bank, and they will send it to us the next day, and we'll pay it. That will slow it down just a little bit. You can mail it to us. Of course, that's going to slow it down because you have to deal with the whole postal service. So it takes a while for us to get your claim. So there's a couple of really easy ways to do it. You can fax your claim to us. We have an 800 number that you can fax it to. We also have online claims, so you can actually go online, set up your account, go right in there, fill out your claim, scan your documentation, send it to us. We have it immediately. We can turn around that payment. The other thing that we have new this year is that we have a mobile app. So you can download that app right onto your smartphone. You can fill out all your claim information, take a picture of your documentation, attach that, send it to us, and again, we get that immediately. We'll turn around and pay your claim. So what kind of things are eligible to be paid for with the healthcare FSA? Just like she was talking about with the health savings account, it's a list of things provided by the IRS. You can go to our website, you can find that list. But basically, any eligible medical expense is eligible to be reimbursed. The only things that aren't are typically things that are cosmetic in nature. Okay, so you can't go get a facelift and cover those expenses. Okay, but your orthodontia, your eye exams, your glasses, your contact lens, your doctor's visits, your co-payments, your prescriptions, all of those things are eligible medical expenses that can be reimbursed through the healthcare FSA. Now, let's say that you're going to take the high deductible health plan and you're going to open a health savings account. And you're going to make contributions to that health savings account. Then you can't have the full-blown healthcare FSA. You can only have what we call the limited scope healthcare FSA. And what that means is that you still put money into the account, just like the other one, but you can only reimburse dental and vision expenses. Okay? So your other medical expenses would have to be paid with the healthcare, with the health savings account, but your dental and vision could be paid out of your limited scope healthcare FSA. So then the other category is dependent care. So how many people here have children that are in daycare? Okay. If you have children that are in daycare, this is a great program. It doesn't benefit a lot of people because a lot of people don't have children in daycare. But if you do, this is an excellent way to save, again, at least 25% of every dollar that you're spending. There's a $5,000 maximum, and I know that most people that pay daycare pay a lot more than that, but that's the IRS max. So you can put in that dollar amount, whatever it is that you're spending each month on daycare. It'll come out of your paycheck, pre-tax, so you're saving the 25%. You turn around, submit a claim to us, and we'll reimburse you. So it's a little different than the healthcare FSAs. The healthcare FSAs, when you say, I want to put $1,000 a year into the healthcare FSA, that $1,000 is available for you at the beginning of the year, regardless of the fact that maybe you only have $200 that's come out of your check. Your full annual election is available to you in the healthcare FSA and the limited scope healthcare FSA. On the dependent care, only what's in your account is available at that time. So let's say that you only have $100 in your account, but you spent $200 this month on daycare. Go ahead and submit your claim for $200. We're only going to pay you the $100 that's in your account, but we will keep track of that, and as soon as your next payroll deduction comes across, we will send you up to that $100 that you already submitted. Any questions about daycare? Yes?
So if we have to actually pay and then get reimbursed, aren't we paying with money that's been taxed?
Okay, with your daycare,
Yeah.
you're saying like if you have to pay the provider first?
Right.
Yeah, basically you're paying the provider, but then you're getting that money reimbursed to you from us. So you're still saving that money because it came out pre-tax. So you're just basically not reimbursing yourself, but that's where the savings came from because you only put, basically, it cost you $80 to put in the $100. I know that's kind of confusing. Yes, sir?
Talk about those maximums, like $5,000 maximum, that's like per family, right? So my wife has one. She works for Central Technology Services.
Right.
So, my wife has one, but I think she's already putting the maximum in, so then I would be able to do one as well.
Exactly. If you are married, 5,000 is the maximum for the family. So you can each do 2,500, or one of you can do 5,000. Typically, it just makes more sense for one person to do 5,000. Some people like it to be evenly split, so you can do the 2,500. Yes, sir.
I just had a question. You said on the check, when you send a check to somebody, it costs you how much for the check? You said if you like, we submit something to you and then you reimburse us. Electronically transfer, doesn't cost anything?
Yes. To be in the plan, if you're in the healthcare FSA, the limited scope healthcare FSA, or the dependent care FSA, if you're in any of those or a combination of them, because it's the same price regardless, it's $2.96 a month is what we charge you if we send it direct deposit.
Okay.
And it's $3.46 a month if we reimburse you by check. Now, if you're in just the premium only option without any of the FSAs, it's 16 cents a month. The other thing that I wanted to talk about that's new, that actually you had last year, but some of you may not be aware of it, is there is a grace period now on the healthcare FSAs and the limited scope healthcare FSAs. So what that means is that we're getting ready to come to the end of the plan year, because our plan years run January 1 to December 31st. So if you were in the plan this year, and let's say that you still have, you know, $1,000 left in your account, because you didn't have as many expenses as you thought you were going to have. And so you're like, okay, well now I only have less than 2 months and I've got to figure out how to spend this $1,000 or I'm going to lose it. Because remember with the healthcare FSAs, you have to use the money that you put in there. So it's getting close to the end of the year, you're like, what am I going to do to use this money up? Now you have a grace period. So you have an additional 2.5 months after the end of the year to use that money. So instead of running out and buying a bunch of Band-Aids and cold medicine and things that maybe you don't really need to use that money, you do have an additional 2.5 months now that you can spend that money. So you have till March 15th. Yes, ma'am.
I understood that Band-Aids and cold medicines and vitamins and supplements did not qualify.
Okay, there are things that we call over-the-counter items. Okay, if it's an over-the-counter item and it does not require, it doesn't have any medication associated with it, like a Band-Aid, okay? Or let's say it's a splint for your arm or your leg, if it's some kind of a medical supply, if it is contact lens solution, all of those kind of things are still eligible through the cafeteria plan. I know some people think that they're not, but they are. Those are medical expenses and they can be reimbursed. If it's an over-the-counter medication, like it's a cold medication or something like that, that you can just go and buy without a prescription, you can still claim that through the cafeteria plan too, but you have to have a prescription for it from the doctor.
Okay, so if it's something the doctor wants you to take, you just need a note?
Right. It has to be on a prescription pad, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, like if you say, you know, I have headaches ever so often, and so would you please write me a prescription for aspirin? They can write a prescription for aspirin or Tylenol or whatever it is, and you send that along with, you know, your claim from Walgreens or Walmart or wherever it is, saying, you know, I spent $3.96 on Tylenol. We'll put that through and it'll be reimbursed. That was one of the things that changed with the healthcare reform, is the over-the-counter medicines now require a prescription, but it is still eligible. Yes, sir.
The HSA and the cafeteria, you can submit from, even though they're not on your health insurance program. For example, my wife, I can still submit her stuff to my program and pay for it out of it.
Yes, your cafeteria plan expenses, that money that you put in there is for all of your eligible tax dependents, as long as they're a tax dependent.
Same way with HSA, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct for the HSA as well. Now, the one thing that also changed with healthcare reform is kind of the definition of a dependent, and that had to do with the health insurance. So if you have a 26-year-old child, they are still technically your dependent. So you can claim their expenses as well. Okay, so as long as they will not turn 27 within that plan year, you can claim their expenses, even if they're married. One good thing. Okay, yes, ma'am.
For the doctor prescriptions for the over-the-counter medications, now, do you have to get a new prescription every time to be covered, every time you would go, say, to buy Prilosec or Tylenol, or is it something that you would keep on file for a certain period of time?
Yeah, the prescriptions are usually good for 1 year from the time they're written. So what I do is when I go in for my annual exam, that's when I just ask my doctor, can you write me all these things that I might need, like Tylenol and all those kind of things. And you can just get it done at that one time, and then it's easy to remember when you go back the next year, get it again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the healthcare FSA? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Our next presenter is Jay Daniels, and he'll talk to you a little bit about his product. And we'll finish up the agenda with Jeff after Jay.
Good afternoon. I am from the St. Louis Voluntary Life Insurance Commission, and all of you, as employees for Lincoln University, have life insurance provided to you by Mosier's. Who's familiar with your Mosier's life insurance? Everybody knows you got 1 times your annual salary. Do you know that if you leave your employment prior to retirement, you lose all of it? Do you know that if you retire from here, you're going to be able to keep $5,000 of it? What you need to know is that the state allows you to participate in a permanent, portable life insurance policy that you can keep and take with you when you leave your job. It is a cash value building policy. Half of everything that you donate to the life insurance while you're working will go into a side fund earning 4.5% interest. That's your money to make loans and withdrawals from, or to use to supplement retirement or to pay premiums in your retirement. It also can be used for long-term care. Now, this benefit is voluntary. You're going to have to take the initiative to find out what it can do for you or your family members. We're at the back table right there. When the meeting is over, please stop over, pick up brochures, fill out an interest sheet so that we can provide you with information about it. Thank you. That's the way you like them, isn't it? You really like this one.
I'm Jeff Jenkins. I'm with Enrollment. We are the 403B plan administrator here. What a 403B is, you probably most of you know, it's a chance for you to set aside additional funds for retirement on a pre-tax basis. We have fixed annuities which offer a guaranteed interest rate, guaranteed not to lose your money. We also have over 160 different mutual fund families. So if you'd like to take a little risk, we've got something in there. If you have an existing 403B or 401k, if you work for a private corporation, you can roll that into the new 403B here. Likewise, if you leave employment here, you can roll a 403B into another 403B with another school or university. Also, same if you go to a private corporation, you have 403B and 401k. Contribution limits for 2014, what's doing? $17,500. There's a catch-up contribution available of $5,500 more. So if you're over age 50, you can put in up to $23,000 per year. And I will go back here to answer any questions more around get started. If you already have a 403B, let's bring up that too.
Is there, if you said you have like mutual funds in there, the normal mutual funds like American funds,
yes,
things like that, is there, then, whenever you invest money normally in American funds, they charge a percentage rate upfront investment, like that taken care of for us, in this 403B or not, or?
Well, the fixed annuity has no fees at all. Mutual funds do have fees, and they do vary.
I mean, I'm not talking about the annuity, I'm talking about the mutual funds.
Right.
Mutual funds is just the normal fees that they would charge.
Just the normal fees they would charge. We don't charge anything on top of it. So, I mean, we recommend if you start out with an annuity, which I'm going to ask about, it start about $25 a month minimum. You start because of the fees in mutual funds, we suggest $100. That's what we Anything else?
Okay, we're at the end of the presentation, so it is now time for the drawings.
Put them in a safe place, so now we have to hope I can find them. Okay, we have several gift cards. First, we have a $25 gift card from Central Bank.
239, that's three numbers, 239. Once, twice. Good draw. 193.
Oh, no way. There you go, congratulations. Thank you. The next two will be $25 gift cards from Winter Deck.
236.
236.
There you go.
Thank you.
Once, twice. Diana, 186.
Try to get this done with you outside so you can take a good win.
237.
And we have two gift cards from Coventry.
He's getting called.
208. Once, twice.
Thank you. All right, thank you. One more.
228.
Seriously?
Once,
Keep that. Keep count. I'll keep moving this one. 228. There you go.
Thank everybody for coming Saturday.
Thank you all very much.